This week's episode is brought to you by the Disney Blu Ray release of Howl's Moving Castle and My Neighbor Totoro. Stick around to the middle of the show to hear our review. Of course, you do listen to the whole show, right? Right?
Communicore Weekly. Come on and get geeky. We bob around boats and five-legged goats. Communicore Weekly. You might catch some freaking. You waited all week. I'm sure you already know that it's the greatest online show.
Hello, and welcome to Communicore Weekly, the greatest online show. I'm George.
And I'm Jeff, and I'm still tired.
I was going to say, well, I mean, you should only be half tired, right?
I am half tired. I mean,
Okay.
I was a full day of tired from a half day of 24-hour parking, so
Yeah, but it was spent at Disneyland, right?
yeah.
That's more than a full day park.
It is more than a full day park, but it was half day park-age for me, I guess,
Well,
maybe.
but you did more than just park. I mean, you went into the park.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was in the park, and I did stuff. I didn't mean like literal parking. I meant like parking as in going around the park.
Oh, touring the park.
Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. Sure.
Well, good. Then that means we must have a trip report coming up.
We got one. Let's do it.
Step, jump, and skip. We took a trip, and this is our trip
So to begin the monstrous summer that Disney has planned, and in conjunction with the release of Monsters University, obviously, Disney held another 24-hour madness event that took place at both the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World and Disneyland and Disney California Adventure here in California. And because I'm not nuts, I did not do the full 24 hours like a lot of people did. I did half-day park version where I only did 12 hours. Well, it was 12 and a half. I got there at 5:30 in the afternoon.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, but it was the second half anyways, which is probably the more difficult part.
Yeah,
of the day.
because it's so late, and it was the more difficult and surprisingly the way less crowded later on in the evening. It was interesting, but most of the day, when we first got there, we took the monorail in, so we went to Tomorrowland, and then we promptly left Disneyland and went directly to California Adventure. Spent a little bit of time over there, but it was also a grad night for grads, so they were closing large portions of the park at like 10 o'clock. So there really wasn't going to be much else to do there except for Soarin', which clearly I'm not going to do because I hate it. And I mean, there really wasn't a lot left to do, so I went back to Disneyland around 8 o'clock. Martina left about the same time because she thinks I was nuts for doing it.
But
It was fun.
she didn't have to work that day, though, did she?
No, neither of us did. She had to work.
Okay.
She had to work Saturday at 9 in the morning, so that was another reason why. It was funny because when I came home Saturday morning at 6:50, her alarm was set for 7, so like we pretty much just traded places in the bed.
Oh, that's good.
It was
so,
wonderful.
This is the second time that they've done the 24-hour party on both coasts. Because Disneyland has been open before, and at one time they were open 5 days.
Yes, which I think is
Straight.
also madness. I have no,
Yes.
I would have assumed that the park would have been a lot dirtier later on in the night, just because of having people in all day. But they did a really good job of cleaning stuff up. At least at Disneyland. I haven't heard about California Adventure. I know that at Magic Kingdom in Florida, it got pretty grimy as the night went on, though, because I heard
Interesting.
reports from friends how terrible it looked.
Well, that was one of my questions. I wonder how it compared between the two. So,
Again, I heard from other people it was really crowded in Florida, but I after the second fireworks show, a lot of people left Disneyland, and then again, as the night wore on, there were less and less people actually in the park. It was like a normal, non-busy operating day, essentially. There were
was
no
just
lines.
dark and cold.
Yeah, dark and cold. That's what it
Dark and
was.
cold. So once you got back to Disneyland, Martina left. So basically, we were a free man the whole night.
Yes, I was on my own. I met up with some friends. My friend David and Justin Scard as well came at one point in the evening, and we wandered. We didn't really have an agenda. We just did whatever we could to stay awake for the rest of the night. I didn't feel tired until, I don't know, maybe 4:30. The problem was we went on Pirates. I think that was the issue, because we were sitting down. It was dark, and then halfway through Pirates, I was like, "Oh gosh, I'm tired. I need to wake up."
The first few minutes of Pirates, once you get out of the bayou, are pretty slow.
Yes.
Once you go through the caverns, yeah.
So that was the problem. It was really weird seeing the park almost that empty, because when you're going through the bayou part of it, the restaurant's there, and I'm used to people in the restaurant eating and such, but like it was completely empty. There was no one in there, so it was really, really eerie.
Well, so the crowds kind of died down. Weren't a lot of waits for the rides. What was the real reason to be there at 4 o'clock in the morning or 3? Just to say you were there?
Just being there, apparently, at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, we didn't go to any of the 24-hour events when they held it for Leap Day last year, but a lot of the people I was with were saying that there is some kind of a certain energy that was missing this time around that they had then. They felt that was more of a party, and this was more of a, hey, we're open for 24 hours.
Yeah, did you get a sense from the people that you spoke to that went to the Leap Day event if this was less crowded?
They said this was much, much less crowded. They said a lot of the crowds, at least at Disneyland, and I know from Walt Disney World too, that the crowds pretty much never died down all night. Whereas here, at least at Disneyland, it got very, very empty as the night wore on, to the point where, like, sometimes you would go a minute or two before you would see another human being.
Almost like the zombie apocalypse had hit Disneyland.
Exactly. Which would be an awesome movie, by the way. Someone should get on that.
Okay. We'll start the script right after the show. So what was let's start. What was the worst part of being stuck at Disneyland for 12 hours?
I mean, they had a lot of quote-unquote special events, I guess still considered part of limited time magic, that went along with the event. They had a Toontown pajama party, which was kind of lame. They had castle moments, they called it, where it was a castle lighting moments, and basically it was an audio recording, very bad imitations of Mike and Sully from Monsters Incorporated and Monster University. Clearly not John Goodman and Billy Crystal. But they were like, "Oh, we can change the lights different colors. I'm going to turn it green. No, I'm going to turn it blue." And like it went back and forth for like 2 minutes, and I was like, we seriously sat here a half hour for this? It was terrible.
Well, what else are you going to do?
Yeah, well, that's true. We pretty much did everything else. But yeah, there wasn't a lot of super extra special things they had going on. It was, again, like a normal operating day, just in the middle of the night.
Okay, and so that leads us to the next question. What do you think was the best thing about being there for so long?
I guess just being able to say, hey, I was there at, 4, 5, 6 in the morning. Just because watching the sunrise, which, by the way, I had to take out my compass and figure out where the sun was going to rise. It literally was rising. The only, like, the best place was it would rise over Innoventions, which who cares? So
it's probably the best that Innoventions looked in years.
Probably. I mean, that was cool to see, and it was cool to see the sun come up kind of near over the castle if you looked at it at a certain angle. Around 5:30, a lot of the crowd started gathering around the castle just for the big goodbye, which there really wasn't a big goodbye.
Okay.
Later on this week, after this episode goes up on Friday, I recorded a 0.5 throughout the night in the park. And I have the whole ending part of the evening. I recorded it, so you can hear what the goodbye was. Again, just bad imitation actors saying goodbye. Thanks for staying the night. Blah blah blah.
So I had this great image of Walt in a bathrobe, coming out to get the paper and yelling at everybody.
You kids, get off my lawn!
Get off my lawn! So did it seem like everything else was open though? I mean, plenty of eateries.
Most of the restaurants were open. Some of the attractions did close as the night went on. After the grad night ended in California Adventure, the major e-tickets there closed, like Radiator Springs and everything.
Wow.
Pirates closed at, I think, like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. A lot of the attractions did close over time, but there's still a heck of a lot that were open still. So it was pretty cool.
I can imagine. So is this something that you do again?
No.
Oh,
No. I think
Okay.
I'm done. I mean, it was cool to be there. Say I did it for the 12 hours. 12 out of 24 ain't bad, but I don't feel the need to have to do it again.
so enough people probably did it last time and realized it wasn't worth it, whereas probably Disney World had so many more people that hadn't done it before.
Yeah, I think a lot of the
think, I
locals
guess.
this time around noticed that it,
Well,
hey,
it was
we
a
did
Friday.
it once. Yeah, it was a Friday. So,
So,
again,
well,
it was busy when I got there during the fireworks. I was diverted backstage down Main Street. I saw the parade floats and everything, which, by the way, you couldn't take pictures. There was people stationed, so sorry. But it was very crowded then. But then after the fireworks were done, emptied. It was
it.
nothing. So, if you want to come out the next time to do a 24-hour event, I'll go with you.
Okay.
But
Okay.
if not, I would probably not do it again.
Catch your sleep is much more important.
Yeah, exactly. But special shout outs to David and Justin Scard and even Jason Cram, who I spent some time with throughout the evening. So thanks, guys, for hanging.
He's a nerd, he's a geek, but we all like to hear him speak. So listen up to the words from his speech. It's George's Book of the Week.
This week's book is Theme Park by Scott Lucas, published in 2008 with 272 pages. And I know I'd been tweeting and posting Facebook photos from this book over the past couple of weeks, and we had a lot of interest in it. So I wanted to make sure I reviewed it as quickly as possible. And we'll talk near the end of the review about why I was posting photos from the book. Anyway, since a few weeks ago when we had covered the history of theme parks, it got me really interested to learn a lot more about, what started the amusement parks and the fairs to where we ended up with a theme park. And Theme Park by Scott Lucas really looks at the theme park, themed space, amusement parks, and entertainment space. I also wondered, what's the difference between like Disneyland and Kennywood? Well, I was doing a search. I ran across a few books about themed spaces, in particular by Lucas, the author, and ordered a few. So Lucas is currently a professor of anthropology at Lake Tahoe Community College. I did check. It is nowhere near Greendale. But, there's no telling. I did a search for Lucas and found that he's done a lot of speaking academically and for the THEA, which is the Themed Entertainment Association, and other theme park groups on themed space.
Oh, I thought that was just his daughter's name.
Yeah, THEA, or maybe Taya.
Taya?
I'm not sure how he'd say it. He probably does call his daughter Themed Space.
Probably.
Probably does. Well, anyway,
Clean your room, theme space.
in your room, Themed Space. The guy has done a lot of research and has the credentials to back him up. Theme Park, the book, is in every way an academic treatise on theme space. Lucas does a very credible job of covering the evolution of theme parks, but he really only steps forward from the amusement parks itself. He doesn't really cover a lot of the history of any type of parks that came before the amusement type parks. A majority of the focus of the book is on Coney Island parks and spaces. And until I read the book, I had no idea there were like 7 or 8 different parks in Coney Island as well. He covers Steeplechase as one of the major parks he looks at, and discusses an attraction called A Trip to the Moon at Coney Island's Luna Park by Frederick Thompson. It was created at the Buffalo Pan American Exposition in 1901 and was moved to Coney Island in 1902. And it was so successful that he built Luna Park with the proceeds. And what's interesting about A Trip to the Moon is it's considered the first dark ride ever, which is pretty cool. It actually takes you from the Earth to the moon, and they had people walking around the moon, and they sold you moon-related food while you were there.
Like moon cheese?
I'm assuming at this point in time.
Because what else? That's the only moon food I
That's
can
the only
think
moon,
of.
moon wine maybe?
Moon juice?
Like the moon wine mixer, maybe?
The moon wine mixer.
Hey, if it works. Anyways, back to the book. So throughout the book, Lucas...
Galaxy-wide.
Entertainment. So Lucas looks at the theme park through different perspectives. He looks at it through the land of the theme park, as a machine, which basically talks about the rides, as a show, and as text, which was interesting. He actually covers theme parks in literature, like novels and films and video games. He covers the history of each theme within the theme is the basic for the subject. So it got pretty meta at times, and at points I was scratching my head. Sadly, though, there was a lot of repetition when he was stressing his points. Okay, so here we get to the big point, or my biggest issue with the book comes from the standpoint of a hardcore Disney enthusiast. There were several times in the book that Lucas is describing Disneyland and he actually presented the wrong information. I know I heard the collective gasp. For instance, he mentions Disneyland's Cinderella Castle.
Okay, let that sink in for a second, guys.
Yeah, I was going to say, let that sink in. Disneyland's Cinderella's Castle. Well, we'll leave it at that. It's a simple mistake, but it brought into question for me the credibility, not only of his fact-checking, but also the editorial staff of the publisher. So if he made some simple mistakes with Disneyland, which is a park known the world over, then what other kind of mistakes were made with the other parks that he talked about and investigated? I posted some photographs of the mistakes online and had tons of people just shocked and aghast when what book it was. And Jeff Curdy did come to the author's rescue and said, well, maybe he meant the Cinderella's Castle that's at the
Storybook Canal.
Storybook Canal rides. And I was like, nah, probably not. So, okay, so getting down to the nitty gritty, overall it's a good book, but I really wouldn't recommend it to anyone who isn't studying theme spaces specifically. It doesn't really cover the history of theme parks like I wanted, and it really has a very academic bent. Lucas is a very, very good writer, good command of the language, and he spent a lot of time researching. His notes are thorough and exhaustive. He's got a great index and a great note field at the end. But if you're looking for a book that explores the nature of theme spaces and will guide you as you discover it, this is a good book. Because he doesn't really give you the answers, he just sort of points you and pushes you in the back really hard.
What a jerk.
Yeah, that's okay. But he never really, in my mind, nailed down what a theme park is. And, that's what my interest is. And I wanted to know more about the history. So I've been taking some notes, and we'll have the Communicore Weekly guide to theme parks soon.
Someday soon.
Coming to an online bookstore near you. So anyway, so can't give it 2 thumbs up, but if you really have an academic need to learn about theme parks and theme space, and that'll suit you right there. And this one is Theme Park by Scott Lucas, published in 2008.
What we liked, what we didn't like, yays and the booze. 60-second review.
Well, Disney has just released the Blu-ray editions of My Neighbor Totoro and Howls Moving Castle. Not castles, there's only one.
There's only one.
And this is pretty exciting. These films are not Disney. They are by Studio Ghibli, and they are productions of Hayao Miyazaki, who is a famed Japanese director, storyman, artist, whatever you want to call him. He's been often related as the current, Walt Disney, basically. Both of these films have been completely redone by Disney, at least for their DVD release, with a voice cast and looking at redoing some of the sound and special effects. But we're most excited because they're finally on Blu-ray.
Yes, because these films are both fantastic. I love them to pieces, and seeing them on Blu-ray was almost like watching a brand new film all over again, because they look so good. Like, I can't even explain to you how good the transfers are on these two films. Like so good that even if you own the DVD, if you have a Blu-ray player, I would say go buy these films because they look so good.
Yeah, we've reviewed lots of Blu-ray material here and at Mice Chat, and we always say, yeah, it looks great. Buy it because it looks good. Both of these films blew me away with the transfer.
No, just for the record, we weren't just saying those other films look good. They did look good.
They did look good.
These two look the best, though.
Yes. We've watched at the Taylor household My Neighbor Totoro probably 15 or 20 times, if not more than that, on DVD. So we know the film backwards and forwards. We still sat there the whole time watching the review copy agog because it was gorgeous. We heard things we had never heard before. musical sweeps or swells, sound effects that weren't there that we had noticed before because of the transfer. It was gorgeous. My Neighbor Totoro, one of my favorite films of all time, and I would argue with people that it's, well, I'm not a film student, so I can't really argue. It's one of the best films ever made.
Absolutely, I would agree with that.
But a lot of Miyazaki's films and the Studio Ghibli stuff, or Ghibli, I guess is what I should be saying, what I love about him is there's not always a villain. And there's no villain really in My Neighbor Totoro.
No, I mean there's no clear plot to the piece, but it's still a gorgeous film.
And you're completely enraptured and captured by it. And everyone that we show this film, some of my favorite things to do is to have friends over. I know I don't have many friends, but to have friends over and say, you sit down and watch this, you'll thank me.
Yeah.
Or let them borrow it and they enjoy it. So definitely get My Neighbor Totoro on Blu-ray. It is amazing. And now we need to talk about Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the only real complaint I had about either of these two films is that Totoro has a ton of special features on it.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Howl's Moving Castle does not, and that's the only downside to that Blu-ray. Everything else, though, about the Howls on Blu-ray is fantastic. Again, it looks gorgeous. I love the story of the film. Mm-hmm. It's a much clearer. There is a clear villain of the piece. There is a much clearer plot as opposed to Totoro's just bouncing around from scene to scene.
Yeah.
The film was gorgeous, but there was a significant lack of extras on the Blu-ray that Totoro had a whole bunch. I don't know why Howls did not. But that was the only downside to Howls disc.
Yeah. I've always tried to push the Studio Ghibli films certain ways, like Ponyo is amazing. That's geared more towards the preschool set, and Totoro always felt like a pre-tween film. And Howl's Moving Castle always felt like a teenager film to me.
Yeah, it's definitely a more adult film of the two.
Well, that's true. It is the more of the adult film. I guess that's what I was getting at. I didn't want to pigeonhole them into any age group specifically, but this one has a bit of a love, romance type thing, a lot of action, some great voice acting. It's got Batman in it.
It's got Batman.
And Billy Crystal.
Yep.
So it's got Mike Wazowski in it. We watched the film the other day, and my wife wasn't able to watch it. And so today, my youngest, the 9-year-old, was like, "Mom, you got to watch this. It looks beautiful. It's great. It's like a brand new movie." And we've seen Howl's Moving Castle, having problems, a ton of times.
I would definitely say both films are two Communicore thumbs up.
Very much. If we had more thumbs. You got to get Totoro, you got to get Howl's Moving Castle, and you got to buy all the rest of the Studio Ghibli films as well.
Because they're all wonderful. So go buy them, because then they'll continue putting them out on Blu-ray, and they'll look even more gorgeous.
Sometimes you might see it, sometimes you don't. Hey, look, what's that? It's a 5-legged goat.
So you really can't miss the distinctive Gertie the Dinosaur that hangs out in Echo Lake at Disney's Hollywood Studios. However, chances are you didn't know that she used to be a real animated girl. So Gertie the Dinosaur was the world's first animated film, and it debuted in 1914, and it was by Winsor McCay. Now, the film was part of McKay's vaudeville act, and Walt often said how much he owed his early animations to the film. So the next time you see Gertie in the park, wave hello, then go home and try to find the film on the internet.
Oh, and buy an ice cream bar.
Yes, buy an ice cream bar. I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
That's true.
It's all about synergy. Gertie the Dinosaur and ice cream go together like...
Well, it's the ice creams of distinction, or extinction.
Extinction.
That's right.
Something like that.
Ice creams of extinction, something like that. So
I don't know. I don't know what dinosaurs and ice cream have to do together, but I'm sure if dinosaurs had ice cream, they would enjoy eating it.
Yeah, they'd probably still be here today.
They probably would. They wouldn't be extinct.
Because of the ice cream.
That's a scientific fact, guys. Take that to the bank.
A Communicore Weekly scientific fact.
Yes.
Oh, we just got a new segment we came up with.
Boom.
Wow.
Get the boys on the theme song.
All right, we'll have to call them right now. So, well, we've made it to the end of another episode. So thank you guys so much for watching, listening, and eating ice cream.
Yes, because it's delicious. Be sure to leave us a comment and rate us on iTunes, and maybe you can tell us your favorite ice cream flavor.
Ooh, that's good. Like if it's like a 5 ice cream. Well, anyway, email us at communicoreweekly@gmail.com.
You can also like us on the Facebook at facebook.com/Communicore Weekly.
Yep, and follow us on Twitter. I'm at Imaginerding, and he's at Jeff Heimbuck. I'm really not both.
No,
At the same
because that'd
time,
be
we want to-
weird.
It'd be weird. And and when you follow us on Twitter, you can ask us what our favorite ice cream actually is.
Spoiler, I don't eat ice cream, guys. I'm lying to you. I'm sorry.
You could have waited.
It was still, I mean, when I did, I enjoyed it. I'll tell you that. But I don't eat it anymore. I
He's
can't.
watching his girlish figure.
I am watching my girlish figure.
That's what it is.
All 98 pounds of me.
Well, for Skinny Jeff Heimbuck, I'm George Taylor.
And for George Taylor, I'm Skinny Jeff Heimbuck. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Communicore Weekly, the greatest online show.
Banana stand.